got your sheet, we'll probably begin with page 12. We'll read the Bible first. Daniel chapter number 9. Every week I keep thinking we're going to work our way through this. I would listen up just a minute while you're turning. You can do two things. It's like rub your head, rub your belly, and all that same time. I want you to do two things at once. You can listen and look. It would really, if we could go back and review everything that we've looked at in the last 3 months, it'd be amazing the Bible we've studied and the verses of Scripture that we've studied. And we're dealing with Daniel's 70th week. And you remember, how many remembers basically what we've covered so far? It's the weeks, mean weeks of 7 years each. Remember that? And so we're looking at that 490 years. We come now, we want to read it, just to refresh your mind with it. We didn't get to deal with it last week. The Lord just kind of blessed and we can get to it. Verse 23, at the beginning of thy supplications, this is Gabriel talking to Daniel. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth. I am come to show thee, and come let me start that again, got messed up. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth. And I am come to show thee, thou art greatly beloved, therefore understand the matter, and consider the vision. Now, let me stop just a second right there. Understand the matter. So, what God has given to Daniel can be understood.
That's right.
God told him to.
Amen.
Now, if you try to spiritualize this, or allegorize it, make it some kind of an example, then opinions are like elbows, as they say. Everybody's got one, and they're going to vary. So he's saying that what I'm giving you can be understood. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. 70 weeks. We've looked at that. Weeks being weeks of 7 years each. So 70 times 7 years is the subject. We dealt with all that on the board. The days gone by are determined upon thy people. That's the Jews, Israel. And upon thy holy city, that's Jerusalem. And then he mentions 6 things that we've already worked our way through that will happen during those 490 years. Number 1, to finish the transgression. Number 2, to make an end of sins. Number 3, and to make reconciliation for iniquity. And number 4, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Number 5, and to seal up the vision and prophecy. Number 6, and to anoint the most holy. So those 6 things will happen when the 490 years have been completed. Verse 25, know therefore and understand, there it is again. So he's telling Daniel that this can be understood, that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, which we told you was March of 445 BC, shall be 7 weeks, that's 49 years, and 62 weeks, that's another 62 times 9, or 7 weeks each, 7 years each. The street shall be built again, that's what will happen during this time, and the wall even in troublous times. After 62 weeks, that's the second set, shall Messiah, who we know today to be Jesus, be cut off. He was crucified, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall come. So we know that Rome destroyed Jerusalem, and the people of the prince with a little p that shall come, we're talking about the Antichrist, we've done studied that, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the city is the holy city, verse 24 that he mentioned. So the city of the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And that flood speaks of persecution and the wrath of God, that he gave you those verses. And unto the end of the war, desolations. And I told you that studying prophecy, you need to remember that word desolations. It becomes a flag in your studies, are determined. And he, the prince that shall come, the Antichrist, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. That's the final week of the 70 weeks. And in the midst of the week, in the midst of that 7 years, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he, that prince that shall come, shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. I still can see here, we will still be here several weeks yet. Now, I want to make a statement tonight. I want you to listen to me very clearly. I don't want you to ever accept or believe anything that I say if I can't back up what I say with the Word of God. Now, the reason that we have been so long in our studies here is that I have given you Scripture to back everything that I've said. I'm going to do that again tonight. Now, I've made this statement several times over the preceding weeks that most people, most religious people, do not believe what I'm teaching these days. They deny it, they fight it, fight against the work of Christ that's yet to come with the nation Israel. And so, if you look at your paper on page 12 of the colored sheet, you see when I say the colored sheet, the sheet has got colored ink on it. In verse 12, page 12, we start with note number 6. And again, this is just something I typed for my own benefit. And I just shared this with you, so I just gave you what I've got in front of me. And it was just popped off the top of my head, so they ain't much up the top of my head if you look real close to them. Verse 27. He says he'll confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. I emphasized in our previous study, in verse 27, if you look at your Bible, he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Not a covenant, but the covenant. And we tried to explain that really shows to us that the Antichrist seemingly does not make the covenant. I know that's going to disagree and cut across the grain with most Bible teachers. But it does not say that he makes a covenant. It says that he confirms the covenant. In other words, the covenant is a covenant that's already been made. And so it may be that he made it. I don't know. And then he goes into perdition, which we'll see in later days. But if you go back to your notes in that, and say, note carefully, he shall confirm not a covenant. He shall confirm not a covenant, but the covenant. This seems to imply that a covenant had already been drawn up. The very wording of the text seems to mean that he's operating on a covenant that has already been made. When that covenant to be made, we don't know. Now you look at note B, confirm, and that's the word javar, and it means to prevail and to make strong. So he is making a covenant that seems to already have been made. He is making that covenant strong. It means to exceed by reason of strength. The word implies that the covenant be forced on the Jews by reason of the strength of the Antichrist. He makes a covenant with the Jews on the 70th week, which is 7 years. For this to happen, several things must take place. The first one's all we're going to get dealt with tonight. The first thing that must take place before the Antichrist can make that covenant is the Jews must be back in their homeland. Before he can make that covenant, the Jews have to be back in their homeland. Now, that truth right there, though I've stated that so many times in this pulpit, it's the reason I said a moment ago, I don't want you to believe that just because I believe that. I want to give you reasons why we believe that. Now, each time I say this, I know that this goes across YouTube and Homer takes it and it's across YouTube and all that. And I know that a lot of people doubt this truth. But does the Bible teach that God is done with the Jews? We've studied that many times. And it's of vast, vast importance. Everything in your text that we're reading about in Daniel 9 is not dealing with the church. We've underscored that multiplied times. It's dealing with the holy city Jerusalem, the people, the Jews, and Lord Jesus Christ. Now, so does the Bible teach that God is going to again? But we know that the Jews have been dispersed into all the world. Does the Bible teach that the Lord's going to regather those Jews again? Well, I think without even understanding the Bible, we can see that He has done that. Yeah. Let's go back again. We can't never go forward. You say, preacher, you'll never get back to the book of Revelation if you keep going back. We will get there eventually. It may be the end of summer. Amen. Look at Leviticus chapter number 26. Now, if this is not on your notes, you may want to put it there, but it's not on your notes. Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus 26 is a portion of Scripture that deals with the beginning of the Palestinian covenant. And if you look at chapter 26, and he's stating what God will do to a people that disobey Him, the nation of Israel that disobeys Him. And he says in verse 31, Leviticus 26:31, I will make your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries unto what? I tell you a while ago that word desolation becomes a word that will flag prophecy many times. He said that I will make your cities a desolation. Now, if you were studying Jeremiah 29, you learned that God said that I made it desolate. I'll make you desolate. He said again in the book of Daniel 9. So, look at verse 31 again. I will make your cities waste, bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. I will not smell the savour of your sweet offerings. I will bring the land. What land? Is that the United States of America? That's the land of Israel. The Jewish land. The land that was coveted to Abraham. We don't have time to go into that, but 1,500 miles of that land over there belongs to Israel. God gave it to them under the Abrahamic covenant. And we've dealt with those covenants in days gone by, all the covenants. I will bring the land, that's the land that God promised to Abraham and his seed, into desolation. It means an empty, and I'll empty that land. Your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. What is this? And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. Now, if you were to read from verse 1 to verse 31, you'd realize that what he's talking about is this will happen upon your disobedience and upon your idolatry. This will happen to you. This is what will happen to the land. I'll take you from the land and I'll drive you off of it. Verse 34. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths as long as it lies desolate, empty, and you be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. That's what God sent to Babylon for. As long as it lies desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when you dwelled upon it. And with upon them are left alive of you, I will send the faintness of their hearts in the lands of their enemies. Now, let me stop that. I really, folks, I don't want to bore you with excessive amount of study, but I can't read this book and just read across it all. I want you to think as you read verse 36 on. How many of you have ever done any studying or any watching of TV or YouTube or Google or whatever you do? How many of you have ever studied any on the Holocaust? The time of Nazism, the German killing of thousands, millions, and I wanted, there's some piece of me that's wanted to go to Washington and see the museum they got up there, the Holocaust Museum. I've never been there, but if somebody asked me once, well, here I go, getting out of context. Somebody asked me once, why didn't those Jews fight back early on? The answer to that's in these texts. The answer to that is in this text. And in the text we're going to read. Look what God said. I will scatter you. I'll send you into the heathen lands because you didn't obey me. As long, verse 36, and upon them that are left alive of you, it won't happen accidentally, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the land of their enemies. Look at this. And the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword when a leaf falls. And they shall fall when none pursueth. And they shall fall one upon another, as it were before a sword when none pursueth. Look at this. Here's the reason they couldn't fight back during the Holocaust. And you shall have no power to stand before your enemies. Have you ever read that? How many ever read that and thought about that during the Holocaust, in at least the Holocaust? Why couldn't they fight back? Why couldn't the Jew fight back? I mean, whole towns would allow a few German soldiers to kill the whole town. They didn't even fight back. They fled and run. Why? God put that spirit of defeat upon them. Amen. This Bible's deeper than we'll ever understand. Yeah. He said, you shall have no power to stand before your enemies, and you shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up, and they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in your enemies' lands. And also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them. But listen to this, if they shall confess their iniquity, and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they trespass against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. God said, I've done this. If then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. Amen. 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 I know where I'm going, and I can't possibly get there tonight. God said, I will do this to them. I'll drive you out of the land, and I will keep you over there, and you'll be so weak and faint that you can't even fight back. When a leaf falls from a tree, it'll make you get troubled. That happened when Babylon invaded Israel and destroyed them, and God sent them for 70 years into Babylon. It happened again when Titus invaded Rome in 70 AD. It happened again, and yet it happened again during Hitler's Holocaust. And if you study, I've got a Bible at the house that I've got almost every nation that ever persecuted the Jew written down on a leaf of my Bible. And none of them were they able to fight back. You say, why couldn't they? Because God said, I will strip you of any power to fight back. But He said, if you'll recognize your sin, and you'll humble your heart, and you'll begin to repent before me, and get it right, God said this, I will remember my covenant that I made. Amen. 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 Lord have mercy, help us. Amen. It's been 4,000 years since God made the covenant with Abraham. But I want to tell you something. God's not like we are. He don't forget. Amen. He don't forget, thank God. He remembers every promise that He made to Abraham. He remembers every promise that He made to Isaac. And He remembers every promise that He made to Jacob. Amen. And that land, thank God, that still belongs to them tonight. He's going to put them back in it.
Yes.
Read on a minute. Verse 43. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate. There's that word again. Without them. They shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, even because they despised my judgments, because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, amen. I don't know, I've got to have some Jewish blood in me. And I mean that seriously. I am not laughing. I'm not cutting up. I cannot read this stuff. I've been preaching going on 41 years. And ever since I was a young preacher, every time I deal with this stuff, God blesses my heart to death. Amen. God, look what he said there. He said, and yet, for all that, amen, and yet, for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away. Oh, if I'd allow that mean streak to come out of me right now, there'd be a lot of things I'd say right there. I like to say to a lot of that crowd that preaches on the radio that God's done with Israel. Amen. I'd like to say you're lying. Amen. God said for all that, for all their sin, and all their idolatry, and all their disobedience, and for me driving down the land, and for them having no power while they're out of the land, God said, I will not cast them away. Amen. That's what Paul's dealing with in Romans. Hath God cast away his people, whom he foreknew? You know what the next two words are? God forbid. Amen. Help me, God. I'd like to get on over there a little bit. Amen. God said, I will not cast them away. Amen. They'll suffer in the land, out of the land. I won't cast them away. Read it again, verse 44. And yet for all that, they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away. Neither will I abhor them to destroy them. Or if it stopped right there, we wouldn't understand it. But utterly. Which means this. He will never, amen. He'll never do away with the seed of the Jew. Amen. Many people and nations have risen and fallen and been done away with. But this is a promise that God will leave the Jew in the earth, thank God, until he fulfills every jot and every tittle that he's ever promised. He'll fulfill that. Amen. Amen. I will not cast them away utterly and utterly destroy them. Underline this. And to break my covenant with them. Aren't you glad God's a covenant-keeping God? Amen. Why? For I am the Lord, their God. Jump over, if you will, to the book of Deuteronomy. Lord help us. I'm trying to get to the thing of will God bring his people back to the place he promised them originally. And oh, well, Lord have mercy. If I said everything's in my mind, y'all be here today. Amen. Deuteronomy chapter 28, look at verse number 1. Shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above the nations of the earth. And all these blessings, verse 3, blessed. Verse 4, blessed. Verse 5, blessed. Verse 6, blessed. He's talking about the blessings that have come upon them. Verse 15, this is still the Palestinian covenant. It shall come to pass that thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed, verse 16. Cursed, verse 16. Cursed, verse 17. Cursed, verse 18. Cursed, verse 19. Now, he comes down, as you look at this, he comes on down in chapter 28 to verse number 62. And he's dealing with all the things that's going to come up on him. You need to read that. Verse 62 of chapter 28 of Deuteronomy. You shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you, to do you good, and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you, and bring you to naught. And you shall be plucked from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it. Well, the promise is, if you disobey me, I'll take you out of the land. Land's still yours, you're still my people, but I'll take you out of the land. And instead of suffering the joy of the blessings, you'll suffer the curse. Verse 64. Here's what he'll do. The Lord shall scatter thee among all people when you disobey, from the one end of the earth even to the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor their fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt there find no ease. And shall the foot of thy sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee. Thou shalt fear. It sounds a whole lot like what happened in the Holocaust, or it's happened many times before. Thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were evening. And at evening thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and with the sight of thine eyes thou shalt see. Now, Luke chapter 30. This is the promise. God will send them into a foreign land. Foreign lands. Chapter 30, still on the Palestinian covenant, verse 1. Shall come to pass, all these things come upon thee, the blessing and the cursing. That's chapter 28. Which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. That then, underscore verse 3, that then the Lord thy God, who drove them into the lands, who sent them out of the country, who gave them faintness of heart and feebleness of mind, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath driven or scattered thee. I wish I could read all of that. Let's read on a minute. Did you get the truth? How many got the truth? This is your Bible. Verse 4. If any of thine be driven out into the uttermost parts of the heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Amen. God himself will go after them. Let me stop just a minute. Let me just stop just a minute. I've read so many books in my life on this stuff that it just blesses me to death. Nobody can understand. Nobody can explain this. You understand we live in the days of mass communication. I mean, Facebook, I don't know what to call it, Facebook. I've been reading people's faces in books ever since I've been preaching. Your face is a book. I can tell a whole lot about you, but it'll look at your face. Amen. We got all sorts of Instagram, chat room, Facebook, text, snapshots. That's probably not the right word. to send pigeon mail to each other. God knows the pigeon legs. Amen. They were the three phones in our whole community. They was party lines and that was that's having a party line today. I mean, remember the old party line. Yeah. But I said all that to say this. After God sent the Jewish people into dispersed in all the world when Titus burnt Rome in 70 AD, they literally was dispersed into all the earth and nowhere accepted. They was literally, their life hung in the balance all the time. You understand, I'm getting way out of text. You understand when King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel, y'all remember studying that in school? And you know that King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella is the one that allowed Columbus to sail what ended up found in America. All that was happening during the Spanish Inquisition. And the Spanish Inquisition was really the Spanish people persecuting the Jews as nobody else on the face of the earth was. And during that very time, God put it in Columbus's heart that there was another land. Hey! He found America. God knew that it would be the land that we call the USA. Amen. That would shield and protect the Jew.
Amen. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, sir. We finally became a strong nation. But after the Jew became a nation in 1948, it began to be all throughout the world. In the late 1800s, Zionism began to burn. And I could go on about that and tell you things about it for hours, but it somehow, Brother Dennis, in all nations of the world, there wasn't no communication. They didn't have mass communication like we had it. But whole tribes of Jews, amen, brother. Whole tribes of Jews would wake up overnight, and it was burning in their heart to flee back to their homeland. They couldn't even explain it. Amen. And in the first 2 or 3 years that God allowed the Jew to go back to their homeland, they flocked back by the millions. Amen. God said, I'll bring you back. I'll bring you back. I'll bring you back. I'll bring you back to that land.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. I think if you read real right, if you read it right, if you read Psalm 30, that old verse of Scripture that says, weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. If you look at that Scripture real well, that's preparation for the millennium. They're weeping. They're enduring, they're fighting, they're sorrow of heart and faintness of flesh. God said, I'll bring you back under the Palestinian covenant. So they came back. Now, so get the promise. I'll bless you if you'll love me, serve me, and I'll curse you if you don't. When you don't, I'll drive you to all nations of the world, and there you'll be faint of heart. But I promise you, I'll not break my covenant with you. I promise you, you'll still be my people. Amen. I promise you, this land will still be your land. Amen. No matter how long you're out, I'll still bring you back.
Amen.
And so God brought them out and took them out of the land from the Babylonian captivity. But thank God, he said in Daniel 9, I'll bring you back to the land. I'll build the temple again, but it's going to be destroyed and burned again.
Yeah.
And it did happen. Amen. Let's jump now to Isaiah 11. Oh, teach this stuff all night. Isaiah 11. Isaiah 11. Well, I don't know how you can read part of it without reading all of it. Verse 1. There shall come forth a rod. And rod always speaks of rulership. Out of the stem of Jesse. Jesse is David's father. And a branch shall grow out of his roots. And of course, the Spirit of the Lord shall be upon him. This is talking about, let me say this. Lord, we ain't going to get nowhere tonight. Y'all underscore that word branch with a capital B. Oh, that becomes big through Jeremiah and Ezekiel. Every time you see that word branch, it's preparation for the millennial kingdom. It's God raising up the stem of Jesse. Amen. May I say, God ain't done with the offspring of Jesse.
Amen.
Amen. The root of David, the bride,
Amen.
and the morning star. Amen. That might explode.
Bless him, Lord.
It's going to happen yet.
Yes, sir.
Amen. Somebody said Jesus come. He did his work at Calvary. He did his work of purging sin at Calvary. Amen. The promise of the work of the branch of David wasn't just for the purging of sin. It was for the priesthood of the believer, and thank God, eventually the kingship of the Lord Jesus on the earth.
Amen.
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 Amen. Oh, Lord, how in the world can you preach this and ever get it done?
Bless him.
God had 3 offices in the Old Testament. That was the office of prophet. A picture of that after the office of prophet, prophesied by the mouth of Moses, a prophet had come. Jesus was the prophet.
Yeah, amen.
But it's also promised that the offspring of David would produce a priest. Not after the order of Aaron, but after the order of Melchizedek. Amen. Give us a lot of help.
Amen, brother.
Not a priest after the order of Aaron, whose high priestly order died. Every priest died. And he couldn't continue, Hebrews chapter 7, by means of death.
That's right.
They had to have a new one every time the old one died. But he said when this priest comes, he's not going to be a priest after the order of Aaron. He's going to be a priest after the order of Melchizedek, who had no beginning, thank God, and will have no end.
Amen.
Who, amen, had no genealogy. There was no beginning of his birth, and there'll be no end by reason of death. Amen. Our high priest tonight is from the branch of David. Amen. And he's going to reign after the order of Melchizedek. We'll never need another king and another priest, because of what we got will never die.
Amen.
Amen. You say he did die. Yeah, he did. But God didn't leave him dead. He rose. Amen. May I tell you, if I don't get the rest of it, I ain't going to even get started tonight.
Bless him, Lord.
May I tell you tonight that that prophet that preached was killed because of his prophethood. They killed him because of his preaching.
Yeah.
But God said, I got one on you. I done got to move ahead of the chessboard. I done know how to go, how the thing's going to end. I raised up the prophet and made him Lord and priest. Amen. And now, thank God, that same man in a glorified body is seated at the right hand of God, a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Now the world didn't receive him as king, as prophet. They killed him. Now he's priest. So they're now preaching that he ain't going to be the king. But David, when only prophet, Found that in Acts. David prophesied that the one that would reign on the earth would be out of the loins of David. Amen. I wish you knew what's going on in that house right now.
Amen.
Bless you, Lord.
Oh, Lord. Help me, Lord, tonight.
Bless you.
I wish you knew what's going on in this little feeble brain up here. Can I just tell you a little bit of it? I've done preached some of it before. For the Messiah whoever will become king over Israel and what they know to be the golden age, what we know to be the millennium, that king must have a record of his genealogy. He can't just come and say, I'm the son of David. I'm the Messiah. So your Bible begins with God telling Matthew, go down to the temple and search the records and write about the genealogy of Jesus. And take the genealogy of Jesus and trace it all the way back to Abraham and David.
Amen.
But one witness was not sufficient. In the mouth of two witnesses shall every word be established. And so one day God told Luke, he said, go down to the temple and search out the genealogy of Jesus. Luke must have been there for a good while. God knew this, that in 70 AD, Titus was going to burn the temple, and the Jewish records were all going to be destroyed. There would be no record of the Jews and their birth. And so Luke studied, no doubt, for weeks. And he traced Jesus not just back to Solomon, not just back to David, and not just back to them, but he traced him back to Abraham. He traced him all the way back to Adam.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Then the temple was burned. Now say tonight, there is no record of any Jew on the face of this earth that would ever have a record that would trace his birth back to the kingship of David and to the covenantship of Abraham.
Amen.
It's just one man. And so when Jesus comes back, he said, look at the genealogy of Matthew. And look at the genealogy of Luke. I can trace my birth back through Solomon, back through David, back through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Amen. I'm the rightful king. I'm the one that God prophesied.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Praise God.
Everybody else's record has burned. Amen. Amen. Why do you reckon God had Matthew to trace the genealogy and Luke to trace the genealogy? Amen. Oh, if I could do what I feel like I do. Oh, blessed book divine. God has given the record of the genealogy of Jesus in a King James Bible.
Amen.
That's room for an Episcopalian. Hey!
Preach, brother.
Hey! Hey! No other Jew will ever be to come back. He'll have two proofs. He'll have proofs in his hands.
Yeah.
Amen. And this one, thank God, that stands as the lamb slain in Revelation 5. He'll have proof in his hands.
Amen.
I'm the Jesus that was crucified back under Calvary. Who are you? I am David's offspring. I am the root and the offspring of Judah. I'm from Abraham's royal line. Amen. I'm from the tribe of Judah. How do you know? Because Matthew, wait a minute, wrote it down. And Luke wrote it down. I've got incontrovertible proof loud. Look at verse 1 again. Thou shalt come forth a rod. It's a rulership of the stem of Jesse. The branch shall grow out of his roots. You said, preacher, I thought you was talking about regathering of Israel. Just read on. When he gets here, the Spirit of the Lord. This is that 7 candelabra Spirit mentioned in Revelation 4. The Spirit of the Lord, 1, shall rest upon him. The Spirit of wisdom, 2, and understanding, 3. Spirit of counsel, 4, and might, 5. Spirit of knowledge, 6, and the fear of the Lord. That's that 7-fold Spirit mentioned in Revelation 4. Shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. With righteousness shall he judge the poor, reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, with the breath of his lips. Shall he slay the wicked? Let me stop right there. I ain't got time to turn you to it. The rod of his mouth is a reference to Revelation 12. And smite the earth with the breath of his lips is a reference to 2 Thessalonians 1, verse 7 and 8. Verse 5. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also, don't believe none of this now, just spiritualize it all, that don't mean what it says. The wolf, of course you know I didn't mean that. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid when he gets here, that is. This is going to happen when the stem of Jesse is ruined. The wolf lie down with the lamb, dwelt the lamb, the leopard lie down the kid, the calf, the young lion, and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them.
Amen.
The cow and the bear shall feed. Their young ones, the calf and the cub, that is, shall lie down together. And the lion shall eat straw like an ox. We've preached on some of that before. The suckling child shall play on the hole of the ass. The ass is the most poisonous snake there is. And the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. That means children are going to have snakes. Amen. All the Pentecostals have a heyday now. Hey, they shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. The holy mountain is Jerusalem. Here's the reason why. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. In that day there shall be a root of Jesse. Let me stop. Probably all I'm going to get to all that. It's already 7 o'clock. A root of Jesse. You go out and you cut a tree, you think it's dead. You cut the old tree, nothing left but the stump. Looks like the stump's dead. You've seen it being. I grew up in log woods. My daddy had a log company. I started driving a bulldozer in the log woods when I was 14 years old. Hated every minute of it. You'd cut a tree, that old stump would die, and you think it's dead. 2 or 3 years, you'd look at it, and out of one side of it, there's a little bitty shoot of life that comes out of that one stump, piece of that stump.
Yeah.
What you thought was dead. God said it'll look like the offspring of Jesse has died. But she'll not come back to life until the grace of the Lord comes back.
Amen.
And then that root will start living again. Read again. And in that day, that day, what day? The day that we just read about, verse 1 through 9. In that day, that branch of the Lord, of course, is Jesus. There shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. Now, I just ask you a question. Has this verse ever happened? To it shall the Gentiles seek,
Yes, sir.
and his rest shall be glorious. Verse 11. Here's the Lord talking about the regathering. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall send his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Syria, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, from Elim, from Shinar, for Shinar is Babylon, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. He shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from where? Four corners of the earth. Now, I'm not going to turn there tonight. We're just getting so much in one second. That's what you're talking about. I think I need to deal with this one here. Look at that little term. From where? The four corners of the earth. When's this going to happen? When the branch of the Lord comes. That's Jesus. Look a minute at Matthew 24 while you hold that place. I can find the verse. I don't even know exactly where it's at. I'm building this new Bible and I cannot get used to it. Give me just a second. I'll find the verse.
Help him, God.
Look at verse 29. Immediately after, Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, the stars shall fall from heaven, the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. They shall see the coming of the Son of Man, shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven, power and great glory. He shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from what? It's the same reference. Four winds, or the four corners from under one heaven to the other. Stop a minute. Most people say that that's the rapture. It's the same reference we're reading about in Isaiah 11, verse 12. He's going to gather them from the four corners of the four winds of the earth. When he comes back, come here now. How much further we can go tonight? So we went nowhere. I went somewhere.
Amen.
He comes back. Get the picture. When Titus invaded Jerusalem, 70 AD, 30-something years after Jesus, 40 years after Jesus was crucified, burned the city. The Jews was dispersed and scattered throughout the whole earth. God said, I'll gather them back and bring them back. When he's going to do that? Now, he's done brought them back. That started. But they're going to leave the city again, according to Revelation 11. The Gentile world power is going to run out again. He brought them back, but there ain't no life in them yet.
Right.
That's what he's talking about, and we'll get there eventually. Ezekiel 34, 35, 36, the vision of the valley of dry bones. He's going to bring them back. He brought them back in 1948, dry bones. But when he comes back, then the life giver is going to give life back to them.
Right.
And at the end of the tribulation, in the middle of the tribulation, let me give you this and I'll be done. We'll come back to it again. At the middle of the tribulation, when that Antichrist sets out that abomination of desolation, and the Jews have to flee from the city, and Jerusalem's destroyed again, Revelation chapter 11, and they're dispersed in all the earth again, how are you going to get back? I tell you how you're going to get back. When Jesus comes back, he's going to gather them again.
Right.
We'll read it next week. Amen. I love this. I love this. I wish y'all like this just a little bit like I do.
Amen.
I love it. He said, I'll send forth my fishers. What he calls them. I'll send forth my hunters.
Yeah.
And they'll fish for them. And they'll hunt them. And they'll gather them back from all the ends of the earth. ain't gonna ask you to tonight. It's in your notes right there in those verses if you want to read them. Here's what he said. He said, when that happens, it'll never be said no more. Bless the Lord that gathered his people out of Egypt. All the Jews have talked about to this day, back on when he brought them out of Egypt and destroyed Pharaoh. Are you listening at me? I'm closing.
Man.
They always make reference to what God done when Moses brought them across the Red Sea and he destroyed Pharaoh and killed them all in the Red Sea. He said, that story ain't going to be told anymore.
Amen.
He said, the story is going to be told of how the Lord come back. Read the book of Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah. The story's going to be said, ain't going to be told no more about how the Lord brought them out of Egypt. But it's going to be told how the Lord brought them from all the lands of the earth and gathered all the Jews, back in the land he promised them 4,000 years.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. I ain't going to say, let me tell you a story, youngins. How God brought us out of Egypt to kill Pharaoh. We say, let us tell you the story of how Jesus come and we rejected him and crucified him. God made him the high priest during the interval of the crucifixion and took him out of church of his own making and his own name. And let us tell you how he sat as a high priest until one day he raptured his church and took them out. And then every promise that God had ever made to our forefathers, he's going to make to us again. And he brought us back out of the lands of all the earth. And if you don't believe on this, children, go with me down to Jerusalem.
Amen.
And I can hear them singing those psalms of the greens as they went to the temple, Psalm 120 and on.
Yeah.
Those psalms, those 15 psalms of the greens, they'll sing them songs. And I believe they'll sing, I think it's page 4, maybe. I don't know. No, it ain't page 4. In our book, often ain't 4, somewhere in the book. Anyhow, we shall see the King. We shall see the King. We shall see the King someday.
Amen.
They're going down toward Jerusalem and they're singing that old song. We shall see the King.
Amen.
They're telling their young ones going along the way the story, how God brought them out of all the lands. Not only are they talking about how God killed Pharaoh and the Egyptian army in the Red Sea, but they're telling how God killed the Antichrist and all his armies in the Jehoshaphat Valley.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. That's right.
We'll pick it up again in another study.